Today I'm working with ON1 Photo RAW. The title of this episode is Exploring Filter Effects. Now this is part one. I'm going to do more of these videos, but we're going to start out looking at 4 different unique filters in ON1 Photo RAW. Hello everyone and welcome to the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm working with ON1 Photo RAW 2022, and one thing I need to tell you right up front is I really enjoy working with this piece of software. Now I mainly work out of Lightroom and Photoshop, but from time to time I like to mix it up and work with other software just to change things up a little bit. As I said in the intro, this is part one of many parts to follow, and I'm exploring different filter effects in ON1 Photo RAW. So today I just randomly chose 4 different filters. So I'm going to go ahead and dive right in. The first filter I want to look at is a LUT. Now LUTs are great when you want to color grade your images. I'm in the library module. I'm just going to double click on this image right here. These are all stock images, by the way. Okay, and this is a really cool image, but let's see what it would look like with different LUTs applied to it. And as I said, LUTs are a great way of color grading your images, and cinematographers use LUTs all the time when you're watching movies and you see those different unique colors when you're watching a film. That's all done generally with LUTs, which is short for lookup tables. Well, let's check it out. I'm here in ON1 Photo RAW as a standalone app. I'm going to come right up here to Effects and click on Effects. And then we can come and click Add Filter, and you'll see all your different filters in here. And by the way, you can search in the search bar, like you can type LUT, and there you go, there's LUTs. So already we see our image has a different color grade added to it. Now, if you click the preview here, here is the before and here is the after. So you can see what it's doing. It's doing a really nice job. Now let's take a look at this filter. We have an opacity slider where we can vary the amount of the effect being applied to the image. So we can add as much or as little as we would like. We have a few presets up here that we can choose from. Probably some of the more popular presets. Like if I click on blues, you'll see there's one effect, and I think that was the effect that was applied to it. Here's one called Aiken, if I'm saying that right, Campari. So you can see these different effects on here, right? And so that is all well and good. You'll notice when I click on these, see where it says category, you'll see that this one called Timeless is in a category called Vintage Matte. This one is in a category called Color Grading. And then if you'll click, see right here where you have the name of that preset, if you click here, you can see there's other ones in here, and if you hover over them, you'll be able to see all the ones in that category group and how they affect the image, which is pretty cool. And then if you look over here to the right where it says more and you click this drop down, here's all the different LUTs that you get with ON1 Photo RAW, and there's quite a few, and you can add your own as well. I'm not going to get into that today, but we're just going to work with what they give us. Now, I'm going to give you a tip here. All these LUTs inside of this group, and again, you can hover over them and see the changes, but let me show you something that you can do that'll really be very helpful. If you come over to the left side of the interface and click right here where it says Filters, you're going to see all these LUTs that ON1 provide for you right here. And there's something else you can do. See right here where you see, it looks like a window pane. If you'll left click on this with your mouse, check it out. There's all your LUTs. And they're all laid out for you to really examine and see which one you like. Now, if you come to the bottom left-hand corner of the interface here, you can adjust the size of these thumbnails. And that's a nice feature, but we can come here and find the one that we like. And you see, they all look really cool. Some you'll like better than others. There's even black and white in here. Let's find one that we kind of like. And I think I kind of like this one called Iced. I'm going to go ahead and click this, and there that LUT is applied. Now, if you click this, see this blue circle, you can see before the LUT was applied and then after. But we're not done. We still have some sliders. We have the lookup table applied, and now we have a contrast slider, so we can add more contrast, or we can take that contrast back and give it a more faded look. Okay, you can also apply a curves adjustment as another filter and give it more of a faded look if you wanted to, or you can also take this saturation slider and add more saturation to this or less. And I may just add a little bit more saturation. I think that looks kind of nice. So here is my before and here is my after, but that is a LUT. And as I said, we could come up here to add filter, and let's add a curves adjustment here. And we could give this a more faded look, which looks really nice in fashion photography. So we could take the left bottom corner of the curve, which represents the shadows, and just drag this point up a little bit like that. And we can add a bit of a fade to this image. Now here is the before, and here's the after. So there's a LUT, and I've added that faded look to it. So that's a nice option with a LUT filter. But now let's move on to another image and another filter. Oh, by the way, down at the lower left-hand side of the interface, there's a preview for before and after, overall before and after. And then you also have this button that looks like an A, and if you'll click on it, you can see a split screen. So then you can take this and drag it and see the overall before and after. That's kind of fun, and I like using that every now and then. If you click that again, you'll be back to the image. I'm done working on this image for now, so I'll just click Done. That'll save everything, and that'll bring me back to the library module where I can go ahead and pick something else I want to work on. Next, I want to work on this image, so I'm going to go ahead and double click this, and that'll open up the editor. It starts us out with the develop module, but I want to go right to effects, so let's just click on effects. And I'm going to click add filter. And this time I want to use a filter that is similar to, say, like an Orton effect. And that's a filter called the glow filter. It's found right here. So I'm going to click on it, and let's check out the glow filter. I'll show you how this one works. Now, with a lot of the different ON1 effects, when you add the filter, you'll see some change to your image. With the glow filter, you don't. But again, you have different presets here. You have one called normal. Let's click on it, and you'll see. You can see the glow, and that looks really nice. That's normal. Here's lighter. Here is darker. Different effects, and if you go to more, you'll see you have a bunch of different ones in here. And just like before, if we come over to the left-hand side of the interface and click on filters, there's all the different presets. And again, you can click this window pane here and see all the different glow effects, which I find to be really a helpful aid. Now we're going to pick one that we like. And I think I want one where I make the shadows look a little more darker, the glow in the shadows to be a little darker. And let me pick one like, say, this one right here, Dreamland. So let me click on that. And it has a nice dreamy effect. Now, here's one thing I don't like. I don't like it on the model. So I'll show you how I take care of that. But you'll notice we have an amount slider here. So if I take this slider and I start to drag it back, I'll take that glow off. You see that? And we have increments that we can go. So it was the whole way up. I'm going to leave it there for now. And then you have a halo, which adds that blooming effect to the light areas. And you can see that, right? How it blooms out and gets a little dreamier. I'm going to hit the Command Z a couple times and get that back to where the preset originally was, right there. Now, there's another thing called mode. You see where it says overlay? These are blend modes, and if you click here, these are blend modes that work really well with this particular filter. Now, this particular preset is using overlay, but if you hover over the different blend modes, and don't forget about this, you can get different effects. Now, that doesn't look good. That's called dark, and here's multiply. Makes it really dark. Screen. Now here is overlay like the preset originally had, overlay strong, soft light, and soft light strong. So let's leave it with overlay, but I want to point that out to you. Now here's the way I'm going to combat the areas that I don't want it affected, like this water here and the lightness on the model here and our flesh tones. I won't get rid of it totally, but I'll show you how I can really ease it back. And also, I should point out, we have the opacity slider, which you do on every one of the filters, that you can pull back the entire opacity on the entire filter if you want to, but I'm going to leave it up full. But here's what we're going to do. Right next to the word glow to the left of it is a layer mask symbol. So click on that, and that opens up your layer masks. Now you can come over and grab a mask tool and simply paint on this mask. But I'm going to show you something that I really love about ON1 software, and that's its Luminosity Mask. So I'm going to click this button that says Lumen, and when I do, it adds a light luminosity mask to this. Now, this is the opposite of what I want. Now, let me go ahead and click View so you can see it here. This represents the mask. Everything that is light will get more of the effect. Everything that is dark will get less of the effect. Black will get none of the effect. White will get all of the effect. But as I said, I don't want to affect the lighter tones, just the darker tones. And by the way, if you're not seeing a black and white image, if you come up here to where it says mask and you come down here to view mode, If yours is on a red overlay, which I don't find particularly helpful in my opinion, I always like to have the black and white mask or the grayscale mask. So I'm going to click on grayscale. I just think it makes more sense, but you can use whatever you prefer. Now it's the opposite of what I want. So how can I invert it to be opposite? Well, there's a invert button right here. Click it and now it's inverted. So now you can see the model's face is pretty well protected, this white blouse, and even the skirt, if that's the proper name, is protected. And so now if we go to view, we can view the image. So now you can see the model is really well protected. Now here is the before and here is the after. So that's really nice. And if you want to add more onto the model, you can take this density slider and start to drag it to the left. And you see how more of the mask starts to lighten up. So I can add more of that dreamy look onto the model if I want to. But there's still a little bit on her, and I think it looks really nice. But that is the glow filter, and it's really cool. But I love how it darkened up the background here. Now let's take a look. Here's the before, and here's the after. I think that looks nice. And if it's too strong, you can take the opacity and start to drag it back. Okay, and just ease it off the entire image. And I might just pull it back just a little wee bit. And don't forget, you always have the amount of glow you can pull back here as well. And don't forget about your split screen. You also have your split screen here. So we can, drag this across and see, do we really like it? And I like it. And then just click this again and we'll see the image. And that's it. And when you're done, all you need to do is click done. And that'll bring you back to the library module. And then if you're not done with your edit, you can always open it back up here and all your effects will be there for you. You can make readjustments. And with ON1 Photo RAW, it's a non-destructive workflow, which is a really great asset. Let's move on to another filter. Hey, it's getting near summer. It's ice cream time. I could sure use an ice cream cone right now. I don't know about you, but I'm going to double click this ice cream image and we'll get started. Let's go back to effects. This time I'm going to use another filter, and this is a great one. And this is something that you'll probably use in just about all your images. And let's go to add filter, and that is the dynamic contrast filter. And like all ON1 Photo RAW filters, we have our presets here and we have our more drop down. And here we have 3 sliders and they're super powerful. We have dynamic contrast sliders for small areas of contrast, medium and large areas. And we also have tone, we have highlights and shadows, and we have a white and black point and vibrance, all very useful when you're making dynamic contrast adjustments, okay? Now let's think about this. Why do we have a white and black slider? Because if you add more whites offset to more blacks, you will increase contrast. Let me go ahead and see the thumbnails of all the different presets we have available. And this time we have 5 presets. Hey, less of a choice. And we can take a look here. Here's grunge, natural, soft, surreal, and texture enhancer. I think I'm going to use surreal. It looks pretty dynamic here. Now we can go and make some further adjustments here if we want to. But you'll notice it's adjusted my highlights and my shadows. And if I want my darker tones to get darker, I can take my black slider and drag this to the left. And you see how those tones get darker, which is really nice. I can make my lighter tones, my highlights get lighter by dragging this over to the right. I don't think that's real helpful. If I double click the circle, that sets it back to its default setting. I'm going to take the large slider and drag it more to the right, add more of that large contrast in there. And how about some more of the medium? Really drag this over. But you notice how the hand does not look very good anymore. And let me check the vibrance out. I'm going to give it a little more vibrance too. Not too much, but it helps in the ice cream and the cone as well, but not in the hand or the background. Okay, so I'm going to take care of that with some layer masking. I think I kind of overdid it a little bit, so I'm going to take the opacity and drag this back to, right around 80%. Now here's the before and here's the after. Now here's a tip for you concerning layer masking. When I only want to apply it to certain areas of the image, let's go up to the layer mask icon and give it a click. And what I want to do right now, it's revealing everything to the entire image. I'm going to go ahead and invert it, and now it's going to take it off of everything. And now with a brush, and make sure you have your mask tool selected over here in the tool well. And I have a brush, and I want to paint my adjustment in. So make sure your mode is set to paint in. You have 2 modes, paint in and paint out. I want to be on paint in. Now I have 100% feathering, so I have a nice soft edge. And what I'm going to do is start out with 100% opacity and just paint it on the cone, all right? And then you can use your left and right bracket keys to make your brush larger or smaller if you need to. So I'm going to go ahead and paint on this adjustment, keeping it off everything but the cone itself, and even off the ice cream, just like that. Okay, so now it's just on the cone. Now I want to put some of that effect on the ice cream as well, but not as much. So I could come up here to opacity, and let's take this back to about, let's take it back to about 60%. And now I'm just going to paint that effect on the ice cream. It'll be less of an effect. Okay. In fact, I'm going to make my brush a little bit larger here. I don't want to paint over the areas I already painted on, but you get the drift, just like this. But this is a good technique if you want to paint that same adjustment on two different parts, but using a different amount. Okay. So now let's take a look here. Here is the before and here's the after, and it's only on the ice cream and the cone. Now this effect may be a little too strong here, so here's what I can do. I can come up to paint out, and I'm going to lower my opacity down to about 37% and just paint some of that off right in this area right here. So I can ease that back just a little bit. But these are all little tips and techniques, and remember these. Okay, so now here is the before and here's the after. So I think that looks much better. This is all I want to do, so I can come down and click done, and that'll send me right back to the library. And if we want, and I do, I want to select another image, but remember, you can always come back to that image and open it up again, and you can continue editing it or change any of the edits you've already made. Next, I want to work on this flower image, so I'll double click it and we'll get started. Let's come back and go right to effects. I'm going to go right to add filter. I want to blur the outer edges of this image, so I'm going to click on blur and bring up the blur filter, and isn't that great? I have a completely blurred image, but we're not done there. Now, of course, we have our opacity slider. We could pull this back, but that's not what I want to do. I'm going to leave it up the whole way. We have our presets here, but I'm going to go right here to type. Now, right now it's on Gaussian, and let's click this drop down. Now we have Gaussian, we have motion, radial, surface, and box. Now these sliders will vary with these different types. If I go to motion, you see some different sliders. If I go to surface, you'll see some more different sliders. And if I go to box, you'll see just an amount slider. But let's go back up to Gaussian. It has an amount slider, so if I drag it to the right, we'll add more of the Gaussian blur. If I move it to the left, we'll see less. Now let's check out the next one, which is motion. And this gives you the motion blur effect. So there's a distance slider. If I drag this to the right, see how the distance elongates? And then we have this angle slider. We can change the angle of that motion. And then we have a smoothing. We can smooth out that motion blur. So there's that. And next we have radial. I'm going to use that last because I'm going to apply that to my image, but I want to show you the different types. Let's go to surface. I like this one. It's more of a diffused blur effect, which can be quite lovely on certain types of images. I'll be using that in some future videos, I'm sure, but for now you can see what it's doing. It's just diffusing the image as I drag this to the right. And then there's also a threshold slider. You can set the blur's threshold by adjusting this. And there you can see how that is affecting the image. And now let's check out the radial. So let me click on radial, and you can see it like radiates out. Now you can pick the point that it radiates from. See this icon right here? Give this a click and you see the crosshatch here. Like it's radiating from here now in the center by default, but pretend this was an image with the sun up here in the corner. If I clicked right here, you would see it would radiate out from there. If I click it again, I can place it anywhere that I would like. So that's nice. I'm going to click it one more time and put it back close to the center. Let me click it once more and go right here. That's where I want it to radiate from. And then you can adjust the amount of the radiation by dragging this to the right or to the left. And just place it just where you like it. And I think right there looks good. Now the quality would simulate the quality of a particular lens. If you move this to the left, as you notice as I go really to the left here, it gets all kind of pixelated. I generally like to leave this up to full 100% quality. And smoothing, again, it just smooths out the actual blur itself. I'm going to leave that off because I think that looks really good. I'm still not done because I want to bring some detail back to the center portion of the flower. And to do that, I'll use a layer mask. So let's click on the layer mask icon. Now, what I'm going to do this time is something a little different, and come over to the tool well and make sure mask is set. But right now, I'm going to come here to this icon. This is for, I believe it's called, your masking bug, so click it. And I'm going to use a different preset. You have different presets for this bug, okay? So if you click the drop down, you see vignette, strong vignette, linear top and bottom, linear left and right. I want to use a vignette style, so I'm going to click on vignette. And I'm going to come right here to the center and give this a click. And you see what it does there? It puts a nice mask around the center. Now you can take this and you can adjust this. So I'm going to adjust this down in. I'm going to pull this in. And you can change it to an oval shape or whatever shape you want. And I may bring it in just a little bit more there and a little bit more there. And maybe right here. And then you can take this and drag it. You can adjust its angle with this right here. So you can adjust the angle there. So I'm going to leave it right about like that. And if I hover off to the right here, you can see there's my result. Isn't that cool? I think it makes for a beautiful image. This is actually simulating something you could do with an actual camera lens and a long shutter, and then defocusing your lens as you're shooting off your image. That's all I want to do with this image for now. So I'm going to click done and go back to the library. And now I have one more image to show you and one more filter effect. And I'm going to do it with this chair and balloon. This is going to be quick. I'm going to double click this. Let's come up to effects, add filter. And this time I want to replace the color of this balloon. This is really nice and easy to do. So let's go to replace color. If I can find it, it's right here, replace color. And see right here, it says target color. And down here, it says color change. See this little eyedropper or picker tool? Click on this. And let's click on some of the pink in this balloon up here. I'm going to change the color of this balloon. And to do that, with the picker tool, I select the color. And then I could come here with the hue. And check this out. I can change it to any hue that I want. Let's make it a nice, what do I want? Let's go with a blue balloon. And let's open up the saturation, or make it a stronger saturation, I should say. Maybe somewhere right around in there. Now, if you're not picking up all the blue tones in here, you can take this range and start to drag it to the right. It'll pick up more blue tones. But notice something on my chair. If I zoom in here, you can see it's putting that blue on my chair as well, which I don't really want. So how can I fix that? Maybe a layer mask? Yeah, I think so. So let's click on the layer mask icon here. And let's just go over and make sure we have a masking brush, and the brush tool is on here. Now I want to take it off of here. So let's change the mode. Well, it's already on paint out. Remember, you have paint in and paint out. We want to paint out. And with my brush at 100% opacity, right now it's at 30%. I'm going to slide this up to 100%, and I'll make my brush bigger, and I'll simply paint that effect off of the chair. I think one of ON1 Photo RAW's strong points is the different ways you can work with layer masking, all the different tools it gives you. I'm going to go ahead and click on the view icon and come back here and click fit. And now we can fit this to the screen. And now we can see here is the before and here is the after. And also there's a brightness adjustment too, I forgot to tell you about. You can adjust the brightness of that balloon as well. So all pretty cool. So that's the replace color filter. And now I'm done with this edit. I'm going to click done, and we'll be back in the library module. Okay, so we worked on, let's see, 5 images today. I threw that last one in as a bonus on that replace color in the chair. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial today. If you did, please give it a like and share it with your friends. And if you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe, click that bell notification icon. Then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll be notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. And I'll see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing.